Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back over 1,000 years to the lush rainforests of southern Mexico, where the ancient Maya city of Palenque rises from emerald canopies like a stone dream. You're about to become a cacao grower in the classic Maya period, around 650 CE, when chocolate beans were literally money and the great Canage Janab Pakal ruled from his towering palace. Just try not to accidentally introduce crop rotation techniques that won't be invented for another few centuries. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment letting me know where you're re-listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I love seeing how far these bedtime stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The morning mist clings to your skin like a cool, damp blanket as you materialize on a narrow dirt path winding through the Chiapas highlands. The air tastes different here, thick with moisture, and the green scent of endless growing things. Your bare feet, somehow already calloused for this life, press into earth so rich it seems to pulse with its own heartbeat. Above you, the canopy filters early sunlight into dancing golden coins that shift and shimmer with each breath of humid wind. You blink, adjusting to eyes that now know this landscape as intimately as your own reflection. Somewhere in the distance, the haunting call of a howler monkey echoes across the valley, answered by another, then another, until the forest fills with their deep, otherworldly voices. It's a sound that would have terrified your old self, but here, now, it feels like coming home to a conversation you've always understood. The path curves downward, and suddenly you're standing at the edge of something magical. Terrace gardens that cascade down the hillside like giant green steps. Cacao trees, no taller than you could reach, spread their broad leaves in neat rows beneath towering cecropia and mahogany trees. Their slender trunks sprout directly from bark and branch in the most wonderfully illogical way, as if someone scattered seeds with divine carelessness and let nature sort out the details. Purple and yellow pods hang like oversized Christmas ornaments from these unlikely places, some as long as your forearm and heavy enough that you wonder how the delicate branches support them. The Maya, you somehow know, call this the food of the gods, and looking at these alien fruits glowing in the filtered morning light, you begin to understand why. The sound reaches you, first voices calling in a language that flows like water over stones, musical and precise. You turn toward the sound and see smoke rising from cooking fires, the familiar gray ribbons that mean home and breakfast and the start of another day's work. Your stomach responds with a gentle rumble, reminding you that even time travelers need to eat. As you follow the path toward the voices, the forest gradually gives way to cleared spaces where corn stalks stand in neat rows, their broad leaves rustling secrets to each other in the morning breeze. Beans climb the corn stalks like old friends, and at their feet, squash plants spread their broad leaves in generous green circles. The three sisters growing together as they have for centuries, supporting each other in the eternal dance of Maya agriculture. You wonder what your old world would think of this forest garden, this careful chaos that feeds families without destroying the jungle around it. There is a wisdom here that your modern mind struggles to grasp fully, the understanding that humans can live within nature rather than conquering it, that farming can look like controlled wildness rather than sterile rows. A dog barks somewhere ahead, and you hear children's laughter mixing with the adult voices. Your heart, this transplanted heart that somehow belongs here now, quickens with anticipation. These people, this family who will welcome you as if you've always belonged. they were waiting just around the next bend, in the path ready to teach you the sacred art of growing the beans that the gods themselves once ate in the time before time began. The voices grow clearer as you round a bend, and suddenly you're standing at the edge of a small clearing where 3 traditional Maya houses sit like sleeping animals in the morning light. Their walls of woven poles and mud plaster seem to grow from the earth itself, while steep pitched roofs of palm thatch create deep shadows that promise coolness even when the day grows hot. Smoke drifts lazily from cooking fires, carrying scents that make your mouth water. Corn masa with smoke and something indefinably green and wild. A woman emerges from the largest house, moving with the unhurried grace of someone who has never owned a clock. She's perhaps 30, with the compact, strong build of someone who has spent her life working the earth. Her long black hair, braided with small jade beads that catch the morning light. Her hupiltha traditional Maya blouse displays intricate patterns woven in red and yellow that tell stories your eyes can't quite read, but your heart somehow recognizes. Itzel, you say, her name appearing in your mind like a gift, and she smiles as if she's been expecting you all along. This is your Maya family now, the knowledge settling into your consciousness as naturally as breathing. She approaches with a clay bowl in her hands, steam rising from its contents like morning prayers. The posel is ready, she says in Maya, the words translating themselves effortlessly in your mind. Posel, the morning drink made from ground corn and cacao, the fuel that has powered Maya farmers for generations. She hands you the bowl, and you inhale the rich, slightly sour aroma that speaks of fermentation and ancient traditions. 2 children peek out from behind. It'll skirt a boy of perhaps 8 and a girl who can't be more than 5. Their eyes are bright with curiosity, studying this familiar stranger who has somehow always been part of their world. The boy you know is called Akbal, named for the darkness that comes before dawn, while the little girl answers to Ek Chuah, sharing her name with the moon goddess herself. You take your first sip of posel, and the taste explodes across your tongue. Earthy corn, bitter cacao, and something else. Something that tastes like the forest itself, distilled into liquid form. It's nothing like the hot chocolate of your old world. This drink that's part breakfast, part medicine, part connection to the divine. The Maya believe cacao was a gift from the gods, and as the complex flavors coat your mouth, you find yourself inclined to agree. The trees are heavy with pods, Itzel says, settling onto a low wooden stool and beginning to grind corn on a matata volcanic stone grinding slab that has been the heart of Maya kitchens for centuries. The rhythmic scraping fills the morning air, a percussion that seems to match the forest's own heartbeat. Today we harvest the ones that sing when you shake them. You nod, somehow understanding that cacao pods announce their readiness through sound the dried beans rattling inside their shells like nature's own musical instrument. It's the kind of agricultural wisdom that takes generations to accumulate. The subtle knowledge that connects human hands to the mysterious timing of growing things. An old man appears from one of the smaller houses, moving slowly but with dignity. His weathered face maps decades of sun and rain, and when he smiles, you see that several teeth are inlaid with jade, a mark of status and beauty that would have puzzled your former self, but now seems as natural as jewelry. This is Itzamna, Itzel's father, named for the creator god who gave humans the gift of writing. The morning star announces another day of work, he says, gesturing toward Venus hanging like a brilliant jewel in the lightning sky. The Maya you remember are master astronomers, reading the movements of celestial bodies, like a farmer reads the sky for rain. Time here isn't measured in minutes and hours, but in the grand cycles of planets and seasons, corn harvests and cacao ceremonies. Akbal approaches you shyly, holding a small clay figurine of a jaguar, its spots painted in blue pigment that seems to shimmer with its own inner light. Maya blue, a color so vivid and permanent that modern chemists still marvel at its composition. He offers the toy to you with the generous trust that children show to people who belong in their world, and you accept it with the reverence it deserves. You wonder what stories these children will tell about their lives, what memories they'll carry of mornings like this one, when the world was green and whole, and the forest sang its ancient songs just beyond the clearing. In your old world, childhood was often hurried, scheduled, contained within walls and screens. Here, it unfolds at the pace of growing seasons, measured in the time it takes for cacao pods to ripen and the corn to reach toward the sky. Itzamna sets down his own bowl of pozole and rises with the careful movements of someone whose bones have earned their stiffness through decades of honest work. "Come," he says, his voice carrying the weight of ceremony. "Before we touch the sacred pods, we must speak with Ek Chuah." You follow him toward a small shrine nestled between two massive cecropia trees at the edge of the clearing. The shrine is a simpler platform of carefully fitted stones, supporting a clay incense burner shaped like a snarling jaguar, its mouth open to receive offerings. Copal resin sits in neat piles beside the burner, the amber chunks looking like crystallized sunlight in the morning shadows. Ek Chuah, you understand now, is the patron god of cacao and merchants, depicted with a drooping lower lip and a pack on his back like the traders who carry precious goods along the forest paths. The Maya don't simply grow cacao, they enter into relationship with it, acknowledging the spiritual dimensions of what others might see as mere agriculture. It's a worldview that would have seemed quaint to your former self, but here, surrounded by trees that somehow fruit directly from their bark, the mysterious feels perfectly logical. Ezel joins you, carrying a small gourd filled with water drawn from the sacred Sanat. An hour's walk through the forest. Akbal and little Ek Chuah follow, their morning play forgotten in the face of this daily ritual that connects their family to forces larger than themselves. Even the children understand that cacao beans aren't just food or currency, they're fragments of divine favor that require proper acknowledgement. Itzamna strikes flint against steel, a technology that reached the Maya through trade networks, stretching from the Arctic to the Andes. The spark catches the copal, and instantly the air fills with sweet resinous smoke that seems to carry prayers upward on invisible wings. The scent transports you pine and honey and something indefinably ancient. The smell of temples and ceremony and connection to the sacred. Ek Chuah, Itzamna begins, his words falling into the rhythmic patterns of formal prayer. Lord of the long road, keeper of the precious beans, we come to you as our ancestors came, seeking your blessing on this day's harvest. His voice carries the musical quality of Maya speech, each syllable precisely articulated, the language itself seeming to honor what it describes. You find yourself joining the prayer, words rising from some deep place in your transplanted consciousness. The Maya language feels natural in your mouth now, its complex grammar and tonal variations as familiar as breathing. You ask for steady hands to select only the ripest pods, for wisdom to know when the beans have fermented properly, for protection from the jealous spirits who sometimes spoil the harvest of those who forget their obligations to the divine. Itzel pours a small amount of water onto the earth before the shrine, the liquid disappearing instantly into soil so rich it seems hungry for every drop. Water is precious here in the dry season, when the cenotes become gathering places for both humans and animals, when every cloud is watched hopefully for signs of rain. To pour it out as offering speaks to the fundamental Maya understanding that generosity toward the gods ensures abundance for mortals. Little Ek Chuah steps forward, with a handful of cacao beans, not the processed ones destined for trade, but raw beans still sticky from their pods, offered back to the source from which they came. She places them carefully at the base of the incense burner, her small face serious with the weight of ritual responsibility. Even at 5, She understands that the relationship between humans and cacao is reciprocal. The trees give their fruit, and humans give back their gratitude and respect. The smoke continues to rise, and you watch it dissipate into the canopy above, carrying your prayers to whatever realm the gods inhabit. In your old world, you might have felt self-conscious about participating in such ceremony, might have approached it with the detached interest of an anthropologist or tourist. But here now, it feels as necessary as breathing, a way of acknowledging that humans are part of something larger than themselves, that even the simple act of harvesting fruit connects us to cosmic forces we barely comprehend. A quetzal calls from somewhere high in the canopy, its liquid trill seeming to approve of your morning offerings. The Maya consider quetzals sacred birds, their brilliant green feathers more valuable than gold, their presence a sign of divine favor. You wonder if this particular bird has come to witness your initiation into the mysteries of cacao cultivation. If even the forest creatures understand the significance of what's happening here. As the copal burns down to glowing embers, Itzamna nods with satisfaction. Ek Chuah has heard us, he says simply. Now we may begin. You wonder what your old world would make of this mingling of agriculture and spirituality, this understanding that farming is fundamentally a religious act. Here, the boundary between sacred and mundane dissolves like morning mist, leaving only the eternal dance between human need and natural abundance, mediated by rituals older than memory. With the morning prayers completed, Itzamna leads you down a winding path that descends into the heart of the cacao groves. The forest here has been shaped by human hands for generations, but so subtly that it still feels wild and mysterious. Towering Madre de Cacao trees create a living cathedral overhead, their canopy so dense that the light filtering through takes on an aquatic quality, green and gold and constantly moving. You carry a woven basket made from palm fronds, its construction so perfect that not a single bean could escape through its tight weave. Itzal has equipped you with a curved obsidian blade hafted to a wooden handle sharper than any steel knife your old world ever produced, capable of slicing through cacao pod stems with surgical precision. The volcanic glass gleams like black ice in the filtered sunlight, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. Look for the purple ones, Itzal instructs, pointing to a pod hanging at eye level from the trunk of a cacao tree. But not to purple when they turn almost black. The beans inside begin to sprout. She demonstrates the proper technique, grasping the pod gently and giving it the slightest shake. The sound that emerges is like a quiet maraca, the dried beans rattling inside their chambers with the musical announcement of perfect ripeness. You reach for your first pod, marveling at how something so substantial can grow directly from tree bark without any visible branch to support it. The cacao tree, you're learning, defies every assumption about how plants should behave. A botanical rebel that fruits from its trunk and major branches in a phenomenon called it's as if nature decided to hang Christmas ornaments directly on the tree itself, bypassing the conventional wisdom of twigs and smaller branches. The pod comes away with a satisfying snap, heavier than you expected, its ridged surface warm from the morning sun. You hold it to your ear and shake gently as there's that telltale rattle that announces the transformation from fresh fruit to precious commodity. Inside this alien-looking shell, 30 or 40 beans nestle in sweet white pulp, each one a potential unit of currency in the complex Maya economy. Akbel appears beside you, moving through the grove with the unconscious grace of someone who has spent his entire life among these trees. He carries his own miniature basket and obsidian blade, learning the family trade through the time-honored method of doing rather than explaining. His small hands are already skilled at reading the subtle signs of ripeness, the slight give in a pod skin, the particular shade of yellow-green that signals perfect timing. My grandfather says the trees like to be talked to, he confides. As you work side by side, your baskets gradually filling with the heavy pods. Not like people talk, but the way the wind talks, or the way rain sounds on leaves. You listen to the forest around you, the constant whisper of moving air, the distant drumming of a woodpecker, the liquid notes of hidden birds, and begin to understand what he means. The cacao trees themselves seem to pulse with quiet life, their broad leaves rustling conversations you can almost but not quite understand. Maya agricultural knowledge recognizes that plants respond to human attention in ways that purely mechanistic farming never acknowledges. These trees aren't just crop machines, producing raw materials, they're partners in an ancient collaboration between human and plant intelligence. You notice how the grove maintains its own microclimate, significantly cooler and more humid than the open spaces you walked through earlier. The canopy trees provide more than just shade. They create a complex aerial ecosystem where epiphytes bloom and birds nest, where insects and small mammals maintain the intricate relationships that keep the forest healthy. Removing the cacao would collapse this entire community, but leaving the forest intact while harvesting its gifts allows everyone to prosper. A brilliantly colored toucan lands on a branch directly above you, its oversized beak almost comically disproportionate to its compact body. It regards you with one bright black eye, head cocked as if evaluating your harvesting technique. Toucans, you somehow know, are important dispersers of cacao seeds in the wild, their powerful beaks perfectly designed to crack open the tough pods and scatter the beans through the forest. Even here, in this human-managed landscape, wild creatures remain essential partners in the cacao cycle. As your basket grows heavier, you begin to appreciate the physical demands of this work. Each pod must be individually assessed, carefully harvested, and gently placed in your basket to avoid bruising. There are no shortcuts, no mechanical aids, just human hands and eyes, and the accumulated wisdom of generations who have learned to read the forest's subtle signals. You wonder how many pods your old world would expect one person to harvest in a day. What efficiency experts would make of this careful, almost meditative process. Here, speed matters less than quality, and quality depends on the kind of attention that can't be hurried or mechanized. By mid-morning, your basket overflows with purple and yellow pods, their weight creating pleasant aches in muscles you're still getting used to. Itzel calls the harvesters back to the family compound, where the real alchemy begins, the mysterious transformation that turns bitter cacao seeds into the precious beans that fuel Maya civilization. You gather around a large flat area paved with smooth river stones, where banana leaves the size of small blankets have been laid out like green carpets. The leaves gleam with their own waxy perfection, nature's ideal packaging material that's completely waterproof, yet allows the right amount of air circulation. Itzamna demonstrates how to crack open your first pod, striking it firmly with a wooden mallet until the tough shell splits to reveal the treasure within. The sight that greets you defies every expectation formed by your old world's relationship with chocolate. Instead of brown beans, you find rows of seeds wrapped in creamy white pulp that looks like garlic cloves dipped in vanilla custard. The pulp itself is edible, sweet and tangy, with a flavor that's part tropical fruit, part floral honey. And Ayaks shell pop pieces into their mouths with obvious relish, their faces lighting up with the simple pleasure of fresh fruit. The pulp feeds us now, Itzel explains, scooping handfuls of the slippery seeds onto the banana leaves. But the beans will feed us for months. She arranges them in neat piles, each containing the contents of exactly 4 pods, a unit of measurement that predates any written system, yet proves perfectly practical for managing the fermentation process that follows. You learn to crack pods with increasing skill, developing the precise strike that opens the shell cleanly without damaging the precious contents. The work develops its own rhythm: crack, scoop, arrange. Repeat while conversation flows around you in the musical cadences of Maya speech. Stories emerge about ancestors who first domesticated these wild trees, legends about gods who gave humans the secret of transforming bitter seeds into divine nourishment. Itsamna explains the critical importance of what happens next. The beans, still sticky with their sweet coating, must ferment for exactly 5 days under the banana leaves. Too little time, and they remain bitter and astringent. Too much, and they develop off flavors that ruin their value. The process requires constant monitoring, checking temperature, adjusting moisture, stirring the beans to ensure even fermentation. The spirits in the beans must die and be reborn, he says, his weathered hands demonstrating how to fold the banana leaves to create the perfect environment. Like the hero twins in the Popova, they must journey through the underworld before they can become what they're meant to be. The Maya creation story finds expression even in agricultural technique, mythology and science intertwining in ways your former world would find impossible to reconcile. The science behind fermentation would fascinate your old self. Wild yeasts and bacteria breaking down the fruit pulp, creating the chemical reactions that develop flavor compounds and reduce bitterness. But here now it feels more like participating in an ancient magic, tending invisible forces that transform one thing into something entirely different through patient attention and precisely applied wisdom. You help cover the first batch of beans, learning to tuck the banana leaves just so, creating breathing space while excluding rain and pests. The bundles look like oversized tamales, innocent packages containing a transformation that will unfold over the coming days according to its own mysterious schedule. Temperature and humidity, the invisible dancers that determine success or failure, begin their careful choreography. In your old world, Itzel says with the casual omniscience that characterizes your transplanted existence, people hurry this process, use machines and controlled temperatures, but the forest knows better than machines. The beans ferment when they're ready, not when humans decide they should be ready. A gentle rain begins to fall, drumming softly on the palm thatch roof overhead. The sound creates its own percussion section in the forest's ongoing symphony, and you watch the fermentation bundles steam slightly as the cool water meets the warm banana leaves. Everything here works together: rain, leaves, beans, human knowledge, and patient time and collaborations your mechanized former world rarely achieved. You wonder what other processes in your old life might benefit from this Maya approach to time and transformation. What might happen if you allowed important changes to unfold at their own pace, trusting natural rhythms instead of imposed schedules? The question feels revolutionary, or perhaps it's simply the wisdom of people who have lived successfully in one place for thousands of years. The rain passes as quickly as it came, leaving the air sweet and clean. And by the time the sun reaches its zenith, Itzel announces that today is market day in Palenque. You help load dried cacao beans from previous harvests into large woven baskets, each one containing exactly 8,000 beans a ton in Maya counting, one of the standardized units that make trade possible across the vast networks connecting Maya cities from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific. The path to winds through forest that grows more magnificent with each step. Howler monkeys crash through the canopy overhead, their territorial calls echoing off limestone cliffs that rise like ancient walls from the jungle floor. Parrots flash red and green between the leaves, and somewhere in the distance, the haunting cry of a jaguar reminds you that humans share this landscape with predators who ruled here long before the first Maya settlement. You carry one of the smaller baskets, its weight distributed by a tumbline across your forehead, a carrying technique that would have seemed impossible in your old world, but now feels as natural as walking. The Maya have perfected the art of human porterage, moving goods hundreds of miles along forest paths without wheels or beasts of burden. their entire economy balanced on strong backs and patient feet. As you crest a hill, Palenque reveals itself. Like a vision from dreams, the great palace rises on its artificial platform, its tower piercing the canopy like a stone needle pointing toward the realm of the gods. Stepped pyramids emerge from the jungle at impossible angles, their limestone facades brilliant white in the afternoon sun. You're looking at one of the greatest cities in the Maya world, home to perhaps 10,000 people, a center of learning and art and political power that rivals anything your old world ever produced. The market spreads across the Grand Plaza, like a colorful tapestry thrown across white stones. Merchants from distant cities display their wares on woven matte obsidian blades from the volcanic highlands, jade ornaments from the Motagua Valley, salt from coastal lagoons, and feathers that shimmer with their own inner fire. The air fills with a dozen languages as traders negotiate in the diplomatic mixture of Maya dialects, hand signs, and shared commercial traditions that make long-distance trade possible. You set up your family's modest display beside a water cellar. From the coast, whose conch shells and dried fish speak of journeys to places where the forest meets the endless blue water, Itzel arranges your cacao beans in neat piles, each containing exactly 20 beans, the basic unit for small transactions. A turkey costs 100 beans, a large tomato costs 1 bean, and a small fish might be worth 30 beans, depending on its size and freshness. A nobleman approaches your display, his elaborate headdress marking him as someone of considerable importance in Palenque's complex social hierarchy. Jade ornaments hang from his ears and nose, and his teeth displayed the filed points and jade inlays that announce both status and devotion to Maya, ideals of beauty. He examines your beans with the practiced eye of someone who knows quality, rolling them between his fingers and even tasting one or two. "These are well fermented," he says approvingly, his accent carrying the refined tones of the royal court. "I need 4 tons for next month's ceremony honoring its..." The quantity he's requesting, 32,000 beans, represents a significant portion of your family's annual production. But the prestige of selling to the palace more than compensates for the reduced profit margins such bulk sales typically involve. Negotiations proceed with the elaborate courtesy that characterizes Maya commerce. Price is only one factor. Reputation, relationship, and mutual obligation all play roles in determining the final agreement. You learn that trade here is as much about building social connections as moving goods, that merchants invest in relationships that may pay dividends for generations. A group of children gathers to watch the proceedings, their eyes wide with fascination at seeing so much wealth in one place. Cacao beans represent more than currency to them, they're tangible connections to the gods, fragments of divine favor made manifest in forms they can touch and count. You remember being their age in your old world, when money was abstract numbers in bank accounts, rather than physical objects that carried their own stories of growth and harvest. And careful tending, the afternoon sun beats down on the limestone plaza, turning it into a reflective oven that would be unbearable without the constant breeze flowing down from the temple pyramids. You marvel at how the Maya architects designed their cities to channel air currents, creating comfort in what could have been hellish heat. Every detail here reflects centuries of accumulated wisdom about living successfully in this challenging environment. You wonder what archaeologists from your old world would think if they could see this market in full operation, could witness the complex social and economic relationships that their pottery shards and stone tools can only hint at. The Maya civilization in action is far more sophisticated than any ruined city could suggest. As the afternoon market winds down, a palace official approaches your display with news that sends ripples of excitement through the gathered merchants. The great king Kanich Janab Pakal requires tribute cacao for an upcoming ceremony, and Each farming family must contribute their finest beans to honor the ruler who has brought prosperity to Palenque for more than 6 decades. You return home with Itzel and the children as evening shadows lengthen across the forest paths. But your day's work is far from finished. The royal tribute demands perfection only, the most carefully selected beans, counted with mathematical precision, and packaged according to protocols that honor both earthly king and divine cosmos. This is more than commerce, it's participation in the sacred mathematics that keep the universe in proper balance. In the compound's main house, by the light of pine torches that fill the air with resinous sweetness, you join the family in preparing the tribute. Itzamna spreads out a woven mat decorated with astronomical symbols, jaguars representing night, serpents embodying the path of planets, and glyphs that record the cycles of Venus and the movements of the Pleiades. Maya mathematics isn't just practical, it's cosmological, each number carrying meaning that connects human actions to celestial harmonies. 400 beans make one equipal, Itzel explains, demonstrating the Maya vigesimal counting system that operates in base 20, rather than the base 10-year-old world takes for granted. She arranges the beans in groups of 20, each group representing one human being's fingers and toes, the original counting tools that still influence how the Maya organize large numbers. 8 equipal make one load, and 20 loads make one pick. You watch in fascination as Akbel, despite his young age, manipulates these large numbers with ease that would challenge many adults from your former world. Maya children learn mathematics not as abstract theory, but as practical necessity, counting cacao beans and corn kernels and days of the calendar with the same fluency their counterparts elsewhere might bring to simple addition. The base 20 system allows them to handle astronomical calculations and commercial accounts with equal facility. The tribute requires exactly 3 pick of the finest beans, 24,000 individual seeds that must be sorted, counted, and verified before packaging. Each bean receives individual attention, examined for proper color, tested for the brittle snap that indicates complete drying, and sorted according to size gradations that reflect different stages of fermentation and processing. The Maya have developed quality standards for cacao that rival anything your old world's commodity markets ever achieved. As you work, Itzamna shares stories about the great Cacao, whose reign has already lasted longer than most humans live. Born under auspicious astronomical conditions, the king has overseen Palenque's golden age, commissioning the great temple pyramids and palace complexes that make this city famous throughout the Maya world. The tribute you're preparing will support ceremonies that maintain the cosmic order, ensuring that rains come when needed and enemies remain distant. Little Ek Chuah helps by separating beans into piles of 20, her small fingers surprisingly deft at the repetitive task. She counts in Maya, the musical syllables flowing like water hoon, Keogs, Ken, Wak, Waksak, Bolin, Laun. Each number carries its own personality in the Maya system, its own associations with gods and calendar days and astronomical phenomena that give counting a richness your old world's mathematics never possessed. The evening progresses with the steady rhythm of counting and sorting, punctuated by stories about ancestors who first learned to read the stars. Legends about the hero twins whose adventures in the underworld explain the movements of celestial bodies. Maya science and mythology, intertwined so completely that separating them becomes impossible and, perhaps, unnecessary. The numbers work regardless of whether you understand them as pure abstraction or as manifestations of divine will. You find yourself thinking about the different ways cultures approach knowledge and certainty. Your old world demanded proof, evidence, reproducible results that could be verified by strangers. Here, truth emerges from relationships between humans and plants, between earthly mathematics and cosmic cycles. between individual families and the Great King, who maintains harmony between all the forces that govern Maya. Existence stopped by the time the tribute is counted and packed in special baskets, woven with protective symbols. The night has grown deep and the cooking fires burn low. You've participated in mathematics that's simultaneously practical and sacred, commerce that's also ceremony, tribute that strengthens both earthly and divine relationships. The cacao beans transformed by your attention into precisely counted offerings will soon journey to the palace, where they'll fulfill their destiny as bridges between human needs and cosmic order. The tribute delivered and the day's work complete, evening settles over the compound like a gentle embrace. Cooking fires crackle to life as families throughout the forest prepare their evening meals, the smoke rising in lazy spirals that blend with the mist beginning to form in the cooling air. You gather with Itzel's family around their hearth, where clay pots bubble with the day's final transformation of cacao not into currency this time, but into the sacred drink that connects mortals to the realm of the gods. Itzel kneels beside a large clay vessel, grinding cacao beans on a metote whose volcanic stone surface has been smoothed by generations of use. The rhythmic scraping fills the evening air with percussion that seems to match the forest's own heartbeat. Each stroke releases oils from the beans, creating a paste so rich and dark it seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. This is chocolate, in its purest form, unsweetened and powerful. Nothing like the confection your old world transformed it into. The gods drank this before they created humans, Itzamna explains, adding hot water to the paste and beginning the vigorous whisking. That will create the foam so prized in Maya chocolate preparation. They needed the strength of cacao to shape the first people from corn. His wooden whisk, carved with symbols of fertility and abundance, moves with practiced precision, creating bubbles that catch the firelight like tiny stars. Akbal brings handfuls of chili peppers from the family garden, not the mild varieties your old world knows, but fierce little pods that carry heat like concentrated sunlight. Itzel adds them to the chocolate along with vanilla pods that perfume the air with their exotic sweetness and achiote seeds that turn the dark liquid a deep reddish brown. The combination creates a drink that's part beverage, part medicine, part direct communication with divine forces. You receive your portion in a clay cup decorated with images of the maize god, his elongated head crowned with corn silk that transforms into flowering vines. The first sip hits your tongue like a revelation, bitter, spicy, complex, beyond anything your former palate ever experienced. This isn't refreshment, it's transformation. Each swallow carrying you deeper into the Maya understanding of what it means to be human in a world where gods and mortals share the same essential substances. The foam, light as air but intensely flavored, dissolves on your tongue with the texture of dreams made manifest. Maya chocolate preparation is as much about creating the proper texture as achieving the right taste. The foam represents the breath of the gods, the spiritual essence that transforms mere nutrition into communion with the divine. You understand now why Spanish conquistadors, tasting this beverage for the first time, called it a drink fit for Kingstock. As the family shares the evening chocolate, stories begin to flow like the drink itself. Itzamna tells of the hero twins, Hunapu and Zabatlunk, whose adventures in the underworld explain the movements of celestial bodies and the origins of human mortality. His voice takes on the rhythmic cadences of formal storytelling, each episode unfolding with the precision of astronomical calculation and the drama of cosmic conflict. The lords of Xibalba thought they were clever, he says, his eyes reflecting the firelight, challenging the twins to a ball game that would determine the fate of all humanity. But the twins carried the wisdom of their father, the maize god, and the strength of their mother, who was made from the same corn that feeds us all. The story weaves together mythology and agriculture, cosmic drama and daily sustenance. in ways that would seem impossible to your old world's compartmentalized thinking. Little Ek Chuah listens with the rapt attention of someone hearing familiar stories that never grow old, her small hands wrapped around her cup of chocolate, her eyes wide with wonder at tales that explain everything from why jaguars hunt at night to how humans learned to count the days of the calendar. Maya children grow up understanding that they live in a universe where every natural phenomenon has its story, where human actions connect directly to cosmic consequences. You sip your chocolate and listen to the night sounds beginning their symphony. Around you, the bass notes of howler monkeys settling into their evening territories, the percussion of insects that seem to respond to the rhythm of its amness storytelling, the distant calls of night birds whose voices carry messages between the world of the living and the realm of spirits. The forest itself seems to be listening, participating in this ancient ritual of sharing stories and sacred drink. You wonder what your old world lost when it forgot how to tell stories that connect daily life to cosmic meaning, when it separated science from spirituality so completely that neither could speak to the other. Here, drinking chocolate isn't just consuming a beverage, it's participating in the ongoing creation of the world, strengthening the relationships between humans and gods that keep the universe functioning properly. The stories wind down as the fire burns low, leaving only glowing coals that pulse like a sleeping heart in the darkness. You retreat to your hammock, woven from cotton so finely spun, it feels like captured clouds against your skin. The Maya perfected the art of hammock sleeping centuries ago, understanding that elevation provides both comfort and protection in a forest, where the ground belongs to different creatures after dark. Your hammock hangs between two posts carved with protective symbols: jaguars to guard against night spirits, serpents to ensure peaceful dreams, and the ever-present maize god, whose benevolence watches over sleeping families. As you settle into the gentle embrace of woven fibers, the hammock responds to your weight with subtle adjustments that cradle your body in perfect suspension between earth and sky. The night forest awakens around you with sounds that would have terrified your old self, but now feel like a familiar lullaby. Somewhere in the canopy above, a family of howler monkeys settles into their evening roost, their territorial calls echoing across the valley in voices so deep they seem to emerge from the earth itself. These are the sounds that have marked bedtime in this forest for millennia, unchanged by human presence, indifferent to the rise and fall of Maya kingdoms. A gentle breeze stirs the palm thatch overhead, creating whispers that blend with the soft breathing of your adopted family sleeping nearby. Itzel's quiet murmur mingles with Akbal's gentle snores, while little Ek Chuah makes the tiny sounds of a child deep in dreams, where gods and mortals dance together under starlight. This is how humans have always slept in the forest, not isolated in separate rooms, but gathered together for warmth and protection and the comfort of shared breath. Your body, still adjusting to its new rhythms, settles into the hammock's embrace, with growing appreciation for its ingenious design. Unlike the flat beds of your former world, the hammock curves around you like a second skin, supporting your spine's natural alignment while allowing air to circulate freely beneath you. In a climate where humidity makes solid surfaces uncomfortably warm, this suspended sleeping arrangement provides coolness and comfort that no mattress could match. The night sounds layer themselves in complex harmonies, the bass percussion of distant howlers, the mid-range chirping of countless insects, the high crystalline notes of tree frogs that seem to sing in mathematical patterns. Occasionally, a jaguar's cough echoes from deeper in the forest, a sound that raises primitive awareness in your transplanted consciousness, while simultaneously reassuring you that the natural order remains intact. You listen for the subtle sounds that indicate the forest's nocturnal shift, change-day creatures yielding territory to their night counterparts in the eternal dance of predator and prey, pollinator and flower, that keeps this ecosystem thriving. Somewhere overhead, bats begin their evening hunt, their ultrasonic calls inaudible to human ears, but essential to their navigation through the three-dimensional maze of branches and leaves. The Maya hammock doesn't just provide comfortable sleep, it connects you to the rhythms of the forest in ways that enclosed bedrooms never could. Every sound reaches you clearly. Every shift in wind pattern registers through the gentle swaying of your suspended bed. Every change in humidity affects the cotton fibers that support your dreaming body. You sleep not in isolation from nature, but as part of it, your breath joining the forest's own respiration. A shooting star traces its brief path across the gap in the canopy visible through the doorway, and you make a wish in the Maya fashion, for personal gain but for the continued harmony between human needs and natural abundance that makes this life possible. The Maya understood that individual welfare depends absolutely on collective prosperity, that personal dreams mean nothing if the larger community suffers. Your eyelids grow heavy as the chocolate's mild stimulants fade, and the day's honest labor claims its due. The hammock rocks gently with your breathing, a motion so subtle it seems synchronized with the forest's own pulse. You drift toward sleep wondering what dreams will come in this place where the boundary between myth and reality dissolves like morning mist, where gods walk among mortals and the forest itself participates in human consciousness. The last sound you register before sleep claims you is the distant call of a night bird, whose voice seems to carry messages between the waking world and the realm of dreams, its liquid notes bridging the gap between consciousness and the mysterious territories where souls travel while bodies rest in cotton, cradles suspended between earth and sky. Dawn arrives not with alarm clocks, but with the forest's own orchestra, tuning up for another day's performance. The first howler monkey call echoes across the valley like a thunderclap made of velvet, answered by another, then another, until the entire canopy vibrates with territorial announcements that would wake the dead. You stretch in your hammock, muscles pleasantly sore from yesterday's harvest, and realize that you've slept more deeply than you have in years. The air carries the green scent of dew-wet leaves, and the wood smoke of cooking fires already kindled by early rising families. Somewhere nearby, a woodpecker begins its morning percussion against a dead cecropia tree, the rapid-fire drumming that announces another day of insects to be hunted, territories to be defended, and the endless work of staying alive in paradise. You roll from your hammock with the easy grace of someone whose body has learned to trust the suspended sleeping arrangement, feet finding the packed earth floor without fumbling. Through the doorway, you can see its soul already at work beside the matati grinding corn for the morning's posel, her movements as rhythmic and automatic as breathing. The sight fills you with contentment. This is how humans have begun their days for thousands of years, with simple rituals that connect them to the sources of their sustenance. Today's cacao harvest will focus on the trees in the lower grove, where yesterday's rain has brought the pods to perfect ripeness. You can tell by the way the morning light catches their surfaces a subtle shift from yellow-green to deep purple that speaks of beans rattling loose inside their shells, ready for the transformation that will turn them into currency and ceremony. Ek appears at your elbow, already dressed and carrying his small harvesting basket, his 8-year-old energy barely contained by the need to wait for adult guidance. The Quetzal is singing near the big tree, he whispers, his voice carrying the excitement of someone who has spotted something magical. Quetzals, with their brilliant emerald feathers and liquid songs, are considered sacred messengers, their presence a sign of divine favor on the day's work. You follow him outside, where the morning mist still clings to the forest floor like the dreams of sleeping trees. The air feels different to Decliner, more charged with possibility, as if the night's rain has washed the world fresh for whatever comes next. Your lungs fill with oxygen so pure it makes your head spin slightly, a reminder that this forest produces the very air that keeps you alive. The quetzal perches on a branch of the great mahogany tree that anchors the lower grove, its tail feathers streaming like green silk in the morning breeze. As you approach, it tilts its head and regards you with one bright black eye, as if evaluating your worthiness to work in its domain. Then, apparently satisfied, it launches into a song so liquid and complex that it seems to contain all the music the forest has ever made. Its blessing, the harvest, its amna says, appearing beside you with the quiet footsteps of someone who has spent a lifetime moving through the forest without disturbing its rhythms. The ancestors send their approval. Through the voice of the sacred bird, he speaks with the matter-of-fact certainty of someone who has never doubted that the natural and supernatural worlds interpenetrate completely. You begin the day's harvest with renewed purpose, your hands moving with increasing skill as you select the perfectly ripe pods and place them gently in your basket. The work develops its own meditation reach: assess, harvest, place, while your mind drifts into the peaceful state that comes from physical labor performed in harmony with natural rhythms. This is how humans are meant to work, you realize, not racing against artificial deadlines, but flowing with the patient tempo of growing things. The morning progresses with the steady accumulation of purple pods, each one a small miracle of transformation waiting to unfold. You've learned to read the subtle signs that distinguish perfect ripeness from the near misses that would compromise the final product. The particular shade of purple that indicates optimum sugar content, the specific sound that beans make when they rattle in their shells, the slight give in the pod skin that shows the pulp has reached ideal consistency. You wonder what efficiency experts from your old world would make of this harvest method, this careful attention to individual pods. That would seem impossibly slow to minds trained on industrial scales of production. But here, quality matters more than quantity, and the patient work of human hands produces results that no machine could match. The quetzal continues its morning concert from various perches around the grove, its song weaving through the sounds of your work like a thread of pure beauty, connecting all the day's activities to something larger than mere economic production. You're not just harvesting cacao, you're participating in an ancient conversation between human need and natural abundance, mediated by the sacred birds that carry messages between earthly and divine realms. As the morning harvest winds down, Akbal and Ek Chuah emerge from the house carrying their own small baskets, ready to learn the family trade through the time-honored method of patient observation and gentle guidance. Today, you'll help teach them the subtle art of reading cacao pods, passing down knowledge that their own children will someday carry forward in an unbroken chain stretching back to the first Maya, who learned to transform bitter seeds into divine nourishment. Ek Chuah, despite her 5 years, shows remarkable focus as you demonstrate how to hold a pod to her ear and listen for the telltale rattle of properly dried beans. Her small face scrunches with concentration as she processes the different sounds: the solid thunk of pods still too fresh, the muffled rustle of beans not quite ready, and finally the clear musical shake that announces perfect ripeness. When she correctly identifies her first ready pod, her smile could power the entire forest. "Not that one," Akbal says gently, guiding his sister's hand away from a pod that still shows too much green around its base. "See how it's still growing? The tree isn't finished with it yet." His 8-year-old wisdom carries the weight of generations, the accumulated knowledge of a people who have survived by understanding plants so intimately they can read their moods and intentions. You watch these children learn with the patient attention their culture brings to all education. There are no hurried lessons here, no artificial deadlines driving the pace of instruction. Instead, knowledge unfolds at the speed of understanding, each child absorbing what they're ready for, while building the foundation for more complex learning that will come with time and experience. The teaching process reveals layers of agricultural wisdom that would take your old world scientists years to document. The children learn not just which pods to harvest, but when to harvest them, how morning-picked pods differ from those gathered in afternoon heat, why certain weather conditions affect bean quality, and how the phase of the moon influences the fermentation process that follows. Maya farming integrates astronomical observation, meteorological knowledge, and plant biology in ways that make modern agriculture seem primitive by comparison. Little Ek Chuah discovers a pod growing directly from the main trunk at her eye level, its unusual position making it easy for her small hands to reach. She examines it with the scientific thoroughness of someone learning to trust her own judgment, checking its color, testing its firmness, and finally giving it the diagnostic shake that will determine its fate. The satisfying rattle earns her a nod of approval from its Amna, whose weathered face lights up with the pride that comes from watching knowledge pass successfully to another generation. Why do they grow from the trunk? Akbal asks, his curiosity typical of children who grow up in cultures that encourage questions about the natural world. All the other fruits hang from branches. It's a sophisticated observation that demonstrates how Maya children learn to notice patterns and anomalies in their environment, developing the observational skills that make them effective farmers and naturalists. It's Amna's explanation weaves together botany and mythology in the seamless way that characterizes Maya education. The cacao tree is special, he says, running his hand along the bark where new pods are already beginning to swell. It puts its fruit close to its heart, where the tree spirits can protect them. Other trees trust their branches, but cacao keeps its children close to the source of life. The explanation satisfies both scientific curiosity and spiritual understanding, teaching children that knowledge comes in many forms. As the children work, you notice how their basket-filling technique differs from adult methods. They work in spurts of intense concentration followed by periods of play, their attention naturally cycling between focused work and joyful distraction. A butterfly landing on Akbal's basket becomes an opportunity to discuss the insects that pollinate cacao flowers, while Ek Chuah's discovery of a bird's nest leads to stories about the creatures that help disperse cacao seeds through the forest. Integrated approach to education would puzzle educators from your old world, who separate work from play, science from storytelling, practical skills from spiritual understanding. Here, all learning happens simultaneously, children absorbing complex knowledge through multiple channels, while developing the deep cultural connections that will anchor them in their community for life. You realize that teaching these children isn't just about cacao cultivation, about maintaining the intricate web of relationships between humans and forests that has sustained Maya civilization for millennia. Each pod they learn to identify correctly, each technique they master, each story they internalize becomes part of the cultural knowledge that will guide their own families through future harvests and challenges. The morning's teaching concludes with baskets full of perfectly selected pods and two children glowing with the satisfaction of competence earned through patient practice. They've learned more than agricultural technique. Today they've participated in the ancient human tradition of knowledge transfer that keeps cultures alive across generations, connecting past wisdom to future possibility through the simple act of shared attention to the details that matter. The afternoon heat grows heavy, pressing down on the forest like a warm, damp blanket. When its Samna announces it's time for the monthly blessing of the cacao groves at the sacred synod, this ceremony, older than Palenque itself, ensures the continued fertility of the trees and maintains the delicate relationship between human cultivation and the water spirits, who control the underground rivers that feed the forest. You join the procession that winds along ancient paths toward the synod, carrying offerings of copal incense, jade beads, and pottery vessels filled with the finest ground cacao. Other farming families emerge from forest clearings to join the group, their children chattering with the excitement that accompanies any break from routine. The Maya understand that community ceremonies serve multiple purposes honoring the gods, yes, but also strengthening the social bonds that make cooperation possible in times of drought or difficulty. The cenote appears suddenly, a perfectly circular opening in the limestone bedrock that drops away into blue-green depths so clear you can see fish swimming 30 feet below the surface. Sacred cenotes like this one serve as gateways to the underworld in Maya cosmology, places where the terrestrial and aquatic realms meet, where humans can communicate directly with the rain god Chak and the serpent spirits who control underground. Waters, a shaman from Palenque, leads the ceremony, his elaborate headdress of quetzal feathers and jade ornaments, marking him as someone authorized to speak with the most powerful spirits. His painted face displays the blue and yellow pigments that represent water and sun, the essential elements that cacao trees need to prosper. When he begins to chant in the formal language of ritual, his voice carries across the water with the resonance of someone who has spent decades learning to project spiritual authority. You watch as families take turns approaching the cenote's edge to make their offerings. Each gift is carefully selected to please specific spirits: jade for Chak the rainbringer, copal for the ancestors who still watch over their descendants' crops, cacao beans for Ek Chuah, the merchant god who ensures that harvests find their way to profitable markets. The Maya approach divine relationships with the same careful attention they bring to human commerce, understanding that generosity toward the gods ensures reciprocal generosity from the forces that control weather and fertility. Akbal and Ek Chuah stand at the water's edge, their small hands clasped as they whisper prayers learned from their grandmother, asking the cenote spirits to keep their family's trees healthy and productive. Their childhood faith moves you deeply, the absolute certainty that their words matter to cosmic forces, that even 5-year-old prayers carry weight in the great scales that balance human need against natural abundance. When your turn comes, you kneel at the limestone rim and offer your own handful of precious cacao beans to the blue-green depths below. The beans disappear into water so clear it seems like air, sinking toward the realm where water spirits hold counsel about the coming rainy season. You find yourself praying not just for good harvests, but for the wisdom to remain worthy of the forest's generosity, to maintain the respectful relationship between human ambition and natural limits that makes this life possible. The ceremony reaches its climax when the shaman pours specially prepared chocolate into the cenote, the dark liquid swirling through clear water like liquid night mixing with crystalline day. This offering of processed cacao back to the water sources that make cacao cultivation possible completes a sacred circle from underground springs to growing trees to humans, transformation, and back to the depths that nurture all life. As the chocolate dissolves and disperses, creating temporary clouds in the transparent water, you feel something shift in your understanding of your place here. You're not just visiting this time and culture, you're becoming part of the ongoing conversation between human consciousness and natural forces that has sustained Maya civilization for thousands of years. Your prayers join countless others offered at this same spot. Your offerings add to the accumulated generosity that maintains cosmic balance. The return journey to the compound unfolds through forest paths, dappled with late afternoon light. The procession now quiet with the satisfied exhaustion that follows meaningful ceremony. Children who are excited and chattery on the way to the cenote now walk peacefully beside their parents, their energy spent in communion with forces larger than themselves. The Maya understand that spiritual practice, like physical work, requires real energy and leaves participants genuinely changed by the experience. You wonder what your old world lost when it forgot how to approach the natural forces that sustain human life as conscious entities deserving respect and reciprocity. Here, agriculture isn't just mechanical manipulation of plants and soil, it's participation in relationships that require constant attention, ongoing negotiation, and regular renewal through ceremony and offering. The forest responds to this approach with abundance that purely technical methods could never achieve. The rainy season approaches with subtle signs that your transplanted senses have learned to read a shift in the wind patterns, changes in the behavior of forest creatures, and the particular quality of afternoon light that announces the coming transformation. For cacao growers, this season brings both opportunity and challenge, as the precious trees need abundant water, but can suffer catastrophic damage if drainage systems fail to handle the torrential downpours that define Maya wet seasons. You spend the morning with Itzamna inspecting the intricate network of raised beds and drainage channels that protect the cacao groves from flooding. These earthworks, refined over generations of experience with tropical storms, represent Maya engineering at its most practical and effective. Every channel has been positioned to direct excess water away from tree roots, while ensuring that beneficial moisture penetrates deeply into the soil that feeds the forest garden. The water spirits give life, but they can also take it away. Itzamna explains as you clear fallen leaves from a drainage channel that will soon carry seasonal floods away from vulnerable root systems. We must show them that we understand their power, that we're prepared to work with their generosity rather than against it. His weathered hands demonstrate the precise angle needed to maintain water flow without creating erosion. Knowledge accumulated through decades of managing the delicate balance between too much and too little moisture. The raised beds themselves represent a sophisticated understanding of soil management that would impress modern built up over years of careful composting. They provide the excellent drainage that cacao trees require, while maintaining the rich organic content that feeds the complex microbial communities essential for plant health. Maya farmers learned centuries ago that healthy soil is living soil, teeming with beneficial organisms that form partnerships with plant roots. Akbal helps you repair a section of raised bed where last season's storms created a small washout. His young hands skillful at weaving the palm fronds that reinforce the earthworks. My grandfather's grandfather built this bed, he says with the matter-of-fact pride of someone who understands that his work continues projects started by ancestors he never met. The Maya approach to agriculture thinks in generations rather than seasons, each farmer adding to infrastructure that will serve their descendants for centuries. You notice how the drainage system integrates seamlessly with the natural topography, following the forest's own contours rather than imposing geometric patterns that would fight against the landscape's inherent logic. Water flows where water wants to flow, guided but not forced, channeled but not constrained. It's an approach to engineering that works with natural forces rather than against them, achieving durability through cooperation rather than domination. As afternoon clouds begin to build on the horizon, promising the evening thunderstorm that has become a daily occurrence as the wet season approaches, you help cover the fermenting cacao beans with additional layers of banana leaves. The fermentation process must continue regardless of weather, but excessive moisture during these critical 5 days can ruin an entire batch by encouraging harmful bacteria rather than the beneficial microorganisms that create chocolate's complex flavors. The covered fermentation bundles steam gently in the humid air, their banana leaf wrappings creating perfect microclimates for the transformation taking place within. You lift one corner to check the beans' progress. They've turned from purple-white to the deep brown that indicates proper fermentation, their surfaces beginning to develop the subtle sheen that comes from oils moving through the cellular structure. As enzymes break down bitter compounds, these will be ready for drying when the rains stop. Itzel observes, testing a bean between her teeth to gauge its texture. The fermentation process can't be hurried, but it also can't be allowed to continue to long timing that requires constant vigilance and the kind of agricultural intuition that develops only through years of patient attention to subtle signs and seasonal rhythms. Thunder rumbles in the distance, the deep bass notes that announce the approach of storms that can drop inches of rain in minutes. You secure the last of the drainage covers and help move vulnerable materials under the protection of palm thatch roofs that have been shedding tropical downpours for generations. Everything here is designed to work with the dramatic weather patterns that define life in this forest paradise. The approaching storm fills you with anticipation rather than anxiety. Your old world's relationship with weather focused on avoiding discomfort, but here you've learned to appreciate the dramatic beauty of tropical storms and their essential role in maintaining the forest ecosystem that supports human life. The rains that are coming will fill the cenotes and underground rivers, nourish the soil microorganisms that feed the trees, and wash the air clean for another season of growth and abundance. You wonder how many other aspects of your former life were organized around avoiding natural processes rather than learning to work with them. How much energy was wasted fighting against seasonal rhythms and weather patterns, instead of adapting human activities to complement the larger cycles that govern all life on Earth. The evening settles over the compound with the weight of approaching storms. The air so thick with humidity, you can almost drink it. Tonight marks your final evening as a newcomer to this ancient way of life. Tomorrow, you'll wake as someone who belongs here completely, your old world fading like a half-remembered dream. You sit with Itzel's family around the matot, sharing in the meditative work of grinding cacao beans into the paste that will become tomorrow's morning chocolate. The volcanic stone surface of the matot has been worn smooth by generations of women's hands, its texture perfect for breaking down the tough cacao beans into the fine paste that forms the foundation of Maya chocolate preparation. Your hands have learned the proper rhythm: forward pressure on the downstroke, gentle lifting on the return, steady grinding that releases the precious oils without generating heat that would damage the delicate flavor compounds. Little Ek Chuah sits beside you, her small hands helping to feed whole beans into the path of your grinding stone. Her concentration absolute as she learns this essential skill that will serve her throughout her life. Feel how the beans want to break, Itzel instructs, guiding her daughter's fingers to understand the way properly fermented cacao yields to pressure. When they're ready, they almost grind themselves. The rhythmic scraping of stone against stone creates its own music, joined by the evening sounds of the forest settling into its nocturnal rhythms. Somewhere in the canopy, howler monkeys issue their territorial calls, while insects begin the complex orchestrations that will continue until dawn. The grinding work requires just enough attention to quiet your thinking mind, while leaving space for deeper contemplation of your place in this ancient cycle of seasons and storms, growth and harvest. Akbal returns from checking the fermentation bundles one final time before the rains arrive, his young face serious with the responsibility of monitoring the transformation that can't be hurried but must be carefully tended. The beans are singing, he reports, using the Maya expression for the subtle sounds that properly fermenting cacao makes, as gases escape and beneficial microorganisms do their essential work. They'll be ready for drying when the storms pass. As you continue grinding, your mind drifts through the days you've spent learning to read the forest's moods and seasons, to understand the patient work required to transform bitter seeds into sacred nourishment. Your hands have learned to select ripe pods by touch. Your ears have developed sensitivity to the subtle sounds that indicate perfect fermentation. Your palate has grown accustomed to the complex flavors of properly prepared chocolate. These skills will last as long as your transplanted life continues. The grinding paste grows smoother with each pass of the stone, its color deepening from brown to the rich darkness that speaks of concentrated flavors waiting to be released. Maya chocolate preparation requires patience that your old world rarely practiced, the willingness to let processes unfold at their own speed, to trust in techniques refined over centuries of experimentation and observation. Thunder rolls across the valley, closer now, and the first fat raindrops begin to patter on the palm thatch overhead. The dry season is ending with the dramatic flourish that characterizes all seasonal transitions in this tropical paradise. Soon the forest will transform into a different version of itself, greener, more abundant, alive with the sound of falling water and the explosive growth that follows the breaking of the dry season's constraints. Itzamna adds hot water to the ground cacao paste, beginning the whisking process that will create foam worthy of the gods themselves. Steam rises from the chocolate, carrying aromas that seem to contain the essence of the forest earthy complex, mysterious in ways that artificial flavors could never match. This is how chocolate was meant to taste, you realize, before your old world buried its wildness under mountains of sugar and cream. As you share this final evening chocolate with your Maya family, you feel the last barriers between your transplanted consciousness and this ancient way of life dissolving like the foam on your tongue. Tomorrow you'll wake not as a visitor, learning foreign customs, but as someone who belongs here completely, whose understanding of cacao cultivation and forest wisdom runs as deep as the limestone aquifers that feed the sacred cenotes. The rain begins in earnest now, drumming on the roof with the insistence of water that has been held back too long, and finally finds release. The sound is magnificent, not the gentle patter of temperate climates, but the full-throated roar of tropical abundance, water falling with such intensity that it transforms the very air into something between liquid and gas. You wonder what dreams will come on this last night of transition. What visions will carry you across the final threshold between your old life and this new existence rooted in soil and seasons, ceremony and careful attention to the subtle relationships that connect human consciousness to the breathing forest that surrounds and sustains you. Morning arrives through the sound of rain gentling to a whisper against palm thatch, the violent storms of the night giving way to the steady, nourishing precipitation that will feed the forest for months to come. You wake in your hammock feeling completely at home in your body, in this place, in this life that has become as natural as breathing. The last traces of your old world have dissolved like morning mist, leaving only the deep contentment that comes from finding your true place in the great web of relationships that sustain all life. You rise to find its soul already at work beside a cooking fire that hisses and steams in the humid air, the flames dancing with the particular grace that fire displays when it dances with water. The morning chocolate preparation begins, as it always has, as it always will, with the patient grinding of beans that yesterday were bitter seeds, and today are the foundation of communion with the divine. Your hands know this work now, your muscles remember the precise motions that create the perfect paste. The children emerge from their hammocks with the easy grace of forest creatures, their hair damp with humidity, their eyes bright with the particular joy that comes from sleeping through dramatic storms while remaining completely safe and dry. They move through their morning routines with the unconscious competence of people who have never questioned their place in the world, who understand their roles in the ancient dance between human need and natural abundance. The drainage channels worked perfectly, Akbal reports after his morning inspection of the cacao groves, his 8-year-old pride evident in the way he delivers this crucial information. All the water flowed exactly where grandfather designed it to go. The engineering wisdom of generations has proven itself once again, protecting the precious trees from flooding while ensuring that beneficial moisture penetrates deep into the soil that feeds the forest garden. You help prepare the mornings chocolate, adding chili and vanilla to the dark paste with movements that feel as ancient as the trees themselves. The familiar ritual grounds you in this new day, this new season, this new phase of a life that stretches ahead of you, like the forest paths that wind endlessly through green abundance. The spicy bitter drink connects you to countless generations who have begun their days with this same ceremony. This same acknowledgement that human life depends absolutely on gifts that must be honored, rather than simply consumed. As you sip your chocolate and listen to the rain drumming its ancient rhythms on the world outside, you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from work aligned with natural cycles, from life lived in harmony with forces larger than individual desire. Your old world's constant rush toward artificial goals has been replaced by the patient tempo of growing things. The understanding that the most important processes can't be hurried, but must be allowed to unfold according to their own mysterious schedules. The fermentation bundles will need checking this afternoon. The drainage channels will require maintenance after every storm, and the endless cycle of selecting, harvesting, processing, and trading cacao will continue, as it has for centuries before your arrival, and will for centuries after your departure. But now you're not observing these activities from outside. You're woven into them as completely as the cotton fibers that support your sleeping body each night. Itzamna appears in the doorway, his weathered face serene with the particular contentment that comes from seeing another generation successfully integrated into the ancient knowledge that keeps families fed and forests thriving. The trees are happy, he says simply, gesturing toward the groves where cacao pods hang heavy with promise despite the dramatic weather. They know they're cared for by people who understand their needs. You nod, understanding now that agricultural success depends not on dominating natural processes, but on learning to participate in them with sufficient skill and attention, that both humans and plants prosper together. The Maya discovered centuries ago that the forest will support human life abundantly, but only if humans remain humble enough to learn what the forest needs in return for its generosity. The rain continues its steady percussion, washing the air clean and filling the underground rivers that will sustain the forest through the dry months ahead. You close your eyes and listen to the sound of water finding its way back to the sea, carrying with it the dissolved minerals and organic matter that will eventually return to nourish new generations of trees, new cycles of growth and harvest, new opportunities for humans to participate gratefully in the abundance that surrounds them. Your transformation is complete now. Your integration into this ancient way of life as permanent as the limestone bedrock beneath the forest floor. You belong here as completely as the trees themselves. Your consciousness rooted in soil and seasons. Your understanding grounded in the patient work of hands that have learned to read the subtle signs of ripening and readiness that determine the success of each harvest. The seasons will turn as they always have, bringing dry months when the cenotes become gathering places, and wet months when the forest explodes with growth. You'll continue learning the subtle mysteries of cacao cultivation, each year adding new layers of understanding to the foundation of knowledge you've already built. The children will grow and have children of their own, passing along the ancient wisdom that connects human consciousness to the patient cycles of growing things. And every morning, you'll wake in your hammock to the sound of the forest awakening around you, ready to begin another day of work that honors both human need and natural abundance. The chocolate you drink each dawn will taste of rain and soil, and the accumulated wisdom of generations who learned to transform bitter seeds into sacred nourishment. Your hands will continue their patient work with pods and beans, fermentation, and drying. The endless cycle of transformation that turns forest gifts into the currency of gods. The rain grows softer now, settling into the gentle rhythm that will continue for days, soaking deep into soil that holds the memory of countless storms, countless seasons, countless generations of Maya families who found their place in this green abundance and learned to call it home. You breathe deeply, tasting the humid air that carries the scent of growing things, and feel your heart settle into the patient tempo of trees that measure time in decades rather than minutes. Your old world, with its artificial urgency and mechanized relationships, feels like something that happened to someone else, in a story you once heard but can barely remember. This is your life now, rooted in soil and seasons, grounded in the ancient understanding that human prosperity depends absolutely on maintaining grateful relationships with the forces that sustain all life. The forest breathes around you, and you breathe with it, your consciousness woven so completely into its rhythms that separation becomes impossible to imagine. The last traces of morning mist rise from the forest floor like the dreams of sleeping trees, carrying your thoughts upward into the canopy, where quetzals sing their liquid songs and howler monkeys issue their territorial calls. This is paradise not because it lacks challenges, but because its challenges call forth the best in human nature: patience, skill, generosity, and the wisdom to live within limits that honor the needs of all the creatures who share this green abundance. As the mist dissolves into the warming air, your breathing slows and deepens, matching the forest's own respiration. Your eyelids grow heavy with the contentment that comes from work aligned with natural rhythms, from life lived in harmony with cycles larger than individual desire. The sound of gentle rain mingles with the whisper of your own breath, creating a lullaby that has sung humans to sleep in this forest for thousands of years. Your consciousness drifts like smoke from the morning's cooking fires, dispersing into the humid air that connects all breathing things in one vast circulation of shared life. The boundary between your individual awareness and the forest's collective consciousness dissolves as gently as sugar in chocolate, leaving only the deep peace that comes from finally, completely, irrevocably coming home to the place where you belong. Sleep claims you with the tenderness of hammock cotton embracing tired limbs, carrying you into dreams where cacao trees grow from starlight and chocolate flows like rivers through landscapes painted in every shade of green the forest knows. In these dreams, you dance with the gods who gave humans the gift of bitter seeds, transformed by patient hands into sacred nourishment. Your feet finding rhythms older than memory, your voice joining the eternal song that celebrates the marriage between human consciousness and the breathing earth that holds us all. Sweet dreams, traveler. May you wake refreshed and grateful for the abundance that surrounds you, ready to tend the relationships that keep the world green and growing, patient in the knowledge that the most important transformations happen slowly, like beans fermenting in their banana leaf bundles, like trust growing between humans and the forest spirits who watch over all our dreams.